Invited enough to eat today?
Boy, I'll say.
Well, that's great. Would you care for ham or beef?
A little both, I think.
All right.
Making friendly conversations like this is a big part of greeting and serving guests. By greeting the guest warmly and holding brief conversations as you serve them, you say to our guests, "We're glad you're here." Let's take a closer look at greeting guests. You might ask something like this.
Is it still hot out there?
Or this.
Did you catch a game last night?
Or this.
Have you tried the lasagna? It's my favorite.
Don't forget to hold quick conversations with our younger guests, too. Start conversations with children by saying something like this.
What grade are you in at school?
Or this.
Have you decided what dessert you're going to have?
Or this.
Do you like hot fudge sundaes?
Serving the guests. Here are some guidelines for knowing how much meat to serve a guest.
I'd like a half-inch slice of that roast beef, please.
Say something like this.
I'd be glad to carve you that. Thinner slices are more tender, though. Would that be all right? How's that for you?
That's fine.
Unfortunately, it doesn't matter to the knife if it's cutting through a ham or your finger.
Do you like hot fudge sundaes? All right.
TBTL.
Are you out of your mind? You're putting your entire future in the hands of the man who put radio on the internet.
The man or beast that I run from ain't been born, and its mama's already dead.
That is something everyone cannot like together.
You guys are so fun, just relentlessly fun. I keep thinking, when are they gonna stop being fun? And the answer is never.
And when they bring that high, hard one in, I stand in and lean back and then just bam. And it sails away out through the universe like a radio wave that goes past Saturn and Jupiter, Pluto, through the black hole, and into many other galaxies yet named.
Listen, please, please, please. If anybody doesn't know the difference between a valance and a jabot, I really need you to leave.
All right, hello, good morning, and welcome everyone to a Thursday edition of TBTL, the show. Just might be too beautiful to live.
I hate podcasting. It's just ruined my life.
My name is Luke Burbank. I am your host.
Give it up for Luke Burbank!
Coming to you from Chicago, Illinois, and the banks of Lake Michigan. In fact, I say that figuratively sometimes. I am looking out from my hotel room at the banks of Lake Michigan, and it's just absolutely spectacular today on this June Thursday.
Oh, Ma, Pa, it's just beautiful.
We have arrived, my friends, at episode 4,487 in a collector's series.
Let the fun begin.
Now, yesterday I was rushing out of here, not here, but out of the show, out of the recording of the show, in order to get out to the world's largest truck stop, where we talked to lots of interesting folks and had a nice time, except I did also slightly have a meltdown in the truck stop that left me feeling embarrassed, chagrined, not great about myself.
I wish I hadn't done that.
We'll probably end up talking about it. It was something that I did not plan on talking about. I did not discuss it with Andrew in the sound check. I did not put it on the show sheet because I didn't want to talk about it, and now here I am. We're, 3 minutes into the show, and I'm already starting to talk about it, so it's probably going to come up. I know this is going to come up for certain, and that is that it's a Thursday, a.k.a. a Blur's Day, so
My birthday today.
we'll do that Blur's Day thing that we do on this show. And we'll also talk to this guy. He is the longest-running Cobra of the show, maybe best known for his depictions of the tall ships. Also,
And boom goes the dynamite.
he's Andrew Walsh, and he's joining me right now. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning, Luke. I got caught trying to edit down some Blur's Days here. What are we talking about? What's going on?
Did I remind you that today is a Thursday, a.k.a. a Blur's Day with
My birthday today.
my intro?
I had various
And no
reminders.
judgment on that, by the way.
Yeah, no, I saw them rolling in, and I think we're going to have a pretty robust Blur's Day segment today, so people love
A lot of people doing it 9 months ago.
That's what you like to point
Well,
out.
not literally 9 months ago, but at some point in human history,
and then
9 months ago.
Then you
Does that
take
make
9
sense?
months. Yes, no, at some point in human history, subtract 9 months. That's
Thank
when they
you.
were doing it.
Well said.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I kept on getting these alerts like on my phone, like, oh, somebody has submitted another Blur's Day. They're just emails. They come in as emails. In fact, I'll just say it. They come in when you email me, andrew@tbtl.net.
There you go.
Anyway, so I kind of kept thinking, I got to sit down to do those. And then, during the sound check, you said it's a Blur's Day. I'm like, damn it, I never sat down to do those. So I'm trying to do it now. I got some really long ones in here that I'm trying to, chop down.
Edit for, what is it? What's the time say?
Brevity and clarity?
Brevity and clarity?
Is it brevity? I feel like they might not say brevity. They definitely
I don't think it's brevity.
Clarity.
Definitely clarity is in there.
Clarity
that
is
one
in
I
there.
Remember.
Yeah, clarity sounds like a drug I would take. Or actually, Claritin is maybe the drug that I'm thinking of. Anyway, that's all I got.
Do you
Luke,
take the Claritin? Do you have the? Do you get the seasonal allergies?
No, I don't take any. I don't take anything like that, and probably not worth getting into. There's a chance that the doctor is going to prescribe me another prescription to go on, and it's not related to rheumatoid arthritis or anything like that.
Oh.
It's just like I got kind of high blood pressure. I'm obviously overweight. Just kind of like, and there's some pill that they made that apparently helps with that kind of stuff, and a lot of people take it. But I've got this weird thing that I'm kind of like, well, let me at least take a whack at this myself before I
don't think that's a weird thing at all. I think that's actually
I don't know why
a good impulse.
I guess so, but I don't know why it's because I went from not taking any regular prescriptions my whole life to suddenly, I now take one shot in the belly every couple of weeks, plus I take like a kind of a little bit.
I didn't realize that was, or I had forgotten that this is the rheumatoid thing. That's actually a needle.
That is a needle, so I have one
self-administered.
Needle. Yeah, I don't love that, but luckily it's one of those pokey pen things. I don't have to push a plunger down. I don't have to like inject the syringe and push the plunger. It's like this one unit that has this sort of plastic protector on a spring, and you just take the whole thing and you poke it in your belly.
Does that hurt? I've never used one of those. Does it feel like a needle, basically?
It feels like a tiny pinch, but this is just me. Like, I just really get in my head about those things. Like, if I was walking, if I was doing some yard work, right, and I'm reaching over the hedges to try to trim something that's far away from me, and the hedges poked me in a certain way, and maybe I didn't move for about 5 seconds, I'd be like, oh, that kind of hurt. Or I'd just be like, oh, the hedges poked me, and I wouldn't think of it. I can never get out of my head that I'm standing in my bathroom poking a needle in myself. Like, I just get in my head about it. But to be honest with you, it really does not hurt. As far as these things are concerned, like, I shouldn't even be bringing it up, honestly, but it's like, I don't know, you push it in, you hold it in for like 5 seconds, and it feels like somebody's pinching you a tiny bit, like just pinch. It's a tiny little pinch.
Speaking of your medical condition, how's the finger?
Finger is just I guess it's just
stabilizing.
It's just stabilizing. Yeah, we are out of the IR. Is that what it is? Intensive care. We're out of the intensive care situation here, and we're just like monitoring the situation. I bought a huge bag of Epsom salt. I had a feeling this was going to be the case. It's just like that citric acid I bought one time. I'm like, I want to try this out, and they're like, oh, you want to try this out? How about a 700-pound bag if you want to try this out? So I now have a 700-pound bag of Epsom salt that I was happy to see they even had.
I knew you were on the
grocery
Epsom
store.
list.
I've
been telling anyone who would listen on X.
I took one flight on
Isn't
a
it
private
weird
jet.
that like the only time I'll refer to it as X is when Elon Musk is using it to try to declare the current president to be a pedophile, I guess, like because that's probably the only time I've ever called it X upon first reference.
Yeah, that is probably
But it sort of has to do with the way it's being used. Like it's being used in such a kind of delightfully bad way in that it's two horrible people trying to destroy each other that like for some reason that means I call it X.
My mind is so wandery today. I apologize, but I am about to complain about a piece I didn't even read. You ready for that? You ready for that? You ever do that? You ever get mad at an op-ed that you never read?
I'm mad at Matt Calkins today for a sports piece that I agree with.
Sounds like you actually read
is it
that,
time
though.
for the Mariners to panic? ? Yes. : Matt Calkins. Here's the thing. I do think it's time to panic. Like, I agree with the premise of the op-ed piece, but somehow it makes me mad that he's saying it. And I have not read the piece.
Well, at least they told you what the piece is going to be about.
True.
It wasn't like the Seattle Times being like, is it time for Mariners fans to feel this way? That's literally what they would usually do. It's gotten
You won't
so
believe
bad.
how some Mariner fans are considering feeling.
It's gotten like that, Luke. I'm not even joking. It's like
it's bad.
It's like restaurants are bolstering this Seattle neighborhood, and I click on it because I'm like, what neighborhood is it? And they know that, right? Because honestly, if they said South Center, not that I don't care about South Center, like South Seattle, and I think there's like a great kind of like vibe going on down there, but I'm way more interested if they're going to be talking about something in North Aurora, right? If it's like going to be about something around the corner from me. So I'm less likely to click on it if it's, something in a different part of the city. So they literally put, just like 2 days ago, it was probably our buddy Tan, right? Is it Tan Vin who writes for the Seattle Times? Tan Vin. It was, like, I like his writing. He's great. But, like, just like,
he probably doesn't write the headlines.
No, I'm not blaming him on the headline. I'm just saying that, like, I don't know. It's just driving me absolutely bananas how they're getting me to click on these things just to figure out what the story's about. So they get the click, and then I can back out right away because I realize it's not directly affecting me. Having said all of that, the piece that I'm going to complain about was something that I saw people complaining about on the, Ascendant social media platform, Bluesky. And, of course, Bluesky people were passing this around in anger because it was basically one of those New York Times pieces that is kind of like liberals are just creating another bubble for themselves in Bluesky. And it wasn't quite that, but it's basically saying, like, everybody who left X to go to Bluesky are just creating another bubble. And it's like, yeah, what? I'm just so sick of all of the commentary talking about how, like, everything that's happening in the world is the liberals' fault. Like, I'm so done with this god dang narrative. I'm so sick of, what happened I'm just off. I was just going to say I know that the story about what happened in the last days of Biden and the book that came out by Tapper and everything.
Yeah, the Jake Tapper book.
It's really interesting stuff. It's palace intrigue. I understand that. But it is also just part of this narrative of just like we are watching one party tank 200 years of history. We are watching a party absolutely tank this entire government, this entire culture. And all I'm hearing about is how, liberals are really to blame because they like to use certain pronouns. I'm just like so sick of it. And so when it becomes this Bluesky sort of meta conversation, I'm not for it.
Like it's our fault because we're all spending too much time in the amniotic sac that is Bluesky instead of being out there and chopping it up on X.
On X, which is that's not a
somehow
bubble
changing
at all.
minds.
Yeah, exactly. So
there was this story in the New York Times the last couple of days, or not a story, it was like an op-ed piece, and it was exactly that. Like I could not even bring myself to click on it. It made me physically sort of angry every time I would scroll past it, which was like, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it was basically like, it was an op-ed piece, and it said something like the thing that liberals just refuse to understand or something. And then it had like a drawing. You know how sometimes like not everything is illustrated with a photograph. Some things have no kind of, sort of visual representation. It's just the headline. Other things have. I feel like my memory of this is it also had some sort of drawing with it, which just felt extra disrespectful. Because you know what I'm talking about? If you go on the New York Times website, a lot of the stories will have, of course, a photograph of the news event. Some will have, if they're in the op-ed section, they tend to go more with like a drawing of a person, or if it's the like, the vows section, like or it's more kind of like literally this one that was happening the other day was like, I think my son is gay. Should I tell him? And then there's like a drawing of a person who I guess represents the parent who's considering telling their kid they're gay or whatever.
Oh, I'm seeing this. This is irritating. So.
Are you seeing the actual headline that I'm referring to? New York Times
opinion, guest essay by Michael Hirshhorn, chief exec of Ish Entertainment. The
75 hard ish.
I know, right? That seems like you'd like that. The achingly simple lesson that Democrats seem determined not to learn. And what you have is like almost like I'd almost describe it as like a free press style political cartoon sort of looking thing where you have like some liberal podcaster literally drinking a can of something that says, no, I got this wrong. This is maybe a right-wing podcaster drinking a can of woke tears, and it says University of YouTube on his shirt, and it says Freedom Cast, and he's talking into a microphone while there's some sort of politician
so let me guess,
sweating.
Is the thing that liberals refuse to admit is that we need a liberal Joe Rogan? What is the premise of the thing?
I was just deep into trying to describe a cartoon to you. Now I have not read the text here, and we are live. We're streaming this live, right?
Yes, we are.
We
are live.
But you are right. It has
right
something
now.
to do with one idea that keeps circulating is to mint a liberal Joe Rogan, or better yet, create a parallel ecosystem of left liberal podcasters to rival the networks. Anyway, it sounds like they're saying, like, don't just try to recreate this on the left, which generally speaking I might
actually agree with.
It's kind of like, didn't you just raise Air America the other day for some reason?
I did. We were talking about Marin.
Yeah, right. I was like, oh, wow, Air America, right. I kind of liked the idea of that at the time as a radio nerd, but, like, of course, it's just like, you can't just like recreate or create mirror versions of that kind of stuff. You're talking to different people that have, different ways of getting info.
Yeah, it isn't like there's a bunch of, like, I mean, there are probably some, but there is not like a critical mass of left-wing bros that are just looking to, like, work on their gains and figure out how to get more liberal chicks and spend less money. Whatever the premise of what, like, Rogan is doing, there is not the same group of potential listeners on the left. That's just the thing. So you can't. I just don't feel like you can make a liberal Joe Rogan. It wouldn't be Joe Rogan. It's not appealing to the same group of people. There's a reason why the bros that like Joe Rogan, but I just don't think there's a left-wing equivalent. If there is, it's Chris Hayes.
Yeah, right. I mean, and the
guy is swole.
He really is. There are, there are places that various kind of factions go to get their info, but I do remember that being sort of a hallmark of Air America when it was new. Me being sort of excited about this idea, liking these people, liking Janine Garofalo, liking radio, liking somebody trying something new.
Young Rachel Maddow.
Oh, that's right.
She was the, like, news person or something. She was the, like, sort of fourth wheel on, like, I think it was like the Sam Sater show or whatever the morning program was.
See, even just saying that, like, I get excited. Like, I do love the idea of it, but then I remember turning it on and being like, oh, it's like they're cosplaying a certain kind of broadcasting. That sort of, like, and I kind of like it in some cases, like something that you and I don't do, which is, like, they pause and they tap their papers, right? When they're making a point, especially when you're, like, hosting sort of solo, and then you make your point, or, like, you're just you're stringing out some point that you want to make, and then you just keep pausing. And this is what they don't get. You know, like that kind of tone. And I remember
that's
at the time
a real, like, Limbaugh move.
Yeah, and I'm like, I like certain people do that and it comes naturally, but when I tune into Air America to listen to quote unquote like kind of my people or whatever, and I don't even know if I thought about things in that sort of way at the time, but I was just like, ooh, it felt weird. It sounded strange. You know what I mean? It's just sort of you should have your own vibe.
Yeah, in all my years of hosting talk radio in one form or another, Andrew, I never, to this day, got comfortable with that pause.
I know. Like, I remember you and Dave Ross.
I could never, ever do that. And I mean, what that indicates, and I totally agree with you, it feels weird to hear a sort of progressive talk show host doing something that clearly is inspired formatically by, like, a Rush Limbaugh or something. But even so, I that does at least indicate a level of comfort with silence on the air that I have never and will never and did never have. Like my many hours of hosting the Luke Burbank show on KVI on Saturday afternoons, and with so much time to fill. If I would have leaned into the so-called pregnant pause, like if I would have just gotten more okay with leaving some space, I could have probably kept that show for many more years. The problem was I could not fill the 3 hours because I had to be making sound all 3 hours. Think about if I would have just paused more. Maybe I was only having to fill 2 hours.
Yeah,
that would have been sustainable.
Well, there is something also about if you're in that rhythm, it gives you time to think without saying which is nice.
Right.
I will say this, and this is going to sound like I'm blaming you for something, and I promise you I don't mean it to be this way, but I think believe it or not, sometimes I think about my performance on these podcasts. I try not to, but I do think I come in with a different energy on this show than if you were to hear me on after these messages. And I do think that it's because I have an example. I have an example for you here. I'm spreading this out. To have you on the edge of your seat to find out how insulting I'm about to be.
I kind of am. I mean, this is very about me, so you definitely have my attention.
It's the only way to get your attention. I had a dream. I don't care. It was about you.
Oh, okay.
I used to go to lunch every day with a guy that I worked with at KOW, and we would just go downstairs from the station, and there's all kinds of food options on the Ave, and we'd usually go into a noodle place or something like that, and I don't think I was a very fast eater before that, but we were both doing kind of live radio. We're just coming off of a morning shift that was just running at 1,000,000 miles an hour, like book this person, and then you get done with the show, and then you're really hungry, but then you got to start working on the next day's show too. So we always had like 1 hour, and this guy just sort of had this certain energy, and he was a fast eater, and we were always in a hurry, rush. And so because of that, I became a much faster eater for a while, because we're just sitting there at lunch, and we're just slopping this stuff up as fast as possible. And I feel like that's a little bit of the energy I bring to this show. And again, I'm not saying it's just you. Together, though, we both have this thing where we're scared of silence, and we're both jumping in. And I know I'm firing little bon mots at you all the time too. So but because of that, I think I talk a lot faster on this show, and I try to get it all out because I never know exactly if I'm going to get to the next bite.
Because that is true. I'm not saying it's true that you talk fast. It is true that I definitely interrupt you a lot. And I think part of that is because I'm rude. And also part of it is because what I've learned would be overstating it. That would mean that I do research and I keep notes and I look back on them and I reflect. A thing that I guess I've sort of picked up doing this show for all these years is we actually, if something comes into our head, I do think we're better served by saying it. And I interrupt you way more than you interrupt me. But even if you were to interrupt me because you had a thought.
I'm going to stop you right there. Sorry, I had to. I absolutely
that was
had
well
to.
played.
I absolutely
do feel like and again, I know I'm starting to sound defensive. I think probably in normal conversation, I'm at least 10% less the way that I am on this show in terms of interruptiness. And I think it's because what I know is we got to do this for a minimum of an hour a day. And oftentimes a random thought, a flight of fancy that comes into our head ends up creating this kind of conversational, journey that could be, if not interesting, at least needle moving. And so I think I've kind of trained my brain to it's almost like improv, except instead of the answer always being yes, the answer is always interject. Because you just never know what.
You're kind of like your version of being like, kind of explore that.
Yeah, precisely. Because it's like you never know what interjection could create something. And now the downside is it totally throws the other person off their game, and it stops them from going where they were going with the conversation. And in fact, it would be insufferable in real life. But somehow here in this world of this rolling conversation, it seems like, and I could be totally wrong about that. I could just be coming up with a theory on the fly to explain my rudeness. So who knows? It could be that too. But it feels like in this world of making the show, we have to just be like, we have to just say anything that comes into our head at any time, because that's the only way that this thing can occur for this amount of time, 5 days a week.
You mentioned yes and or no but.
Hold on, Andrew. I was just thinking about that. It's less funny when I do. It was very funny when you did it.
Well, I was all. I mean, also, I kind of got in there first with the good burn. But you sent me a piece of tape the other day that I am sort of obsessed with, and we started the show with it the other day, and it's from that show called The Earliest Show that I think was just a CISO thing, and it's Ben Schwartz, right? And
Lauren Lapkus,
and I don't know who the third person who plays the producer is, and they're doing a version of like a morning, not even news show, but like kind of a morning TV chat show, right? And we've talked about it before on this show, and we've played other tape from it, and you played this stuff about, I'm just going to play it again. It's 45 seconds long. I think it's brilliant. I'm going to tell you why I'm playing it, though, is because obviously this is improv, but also they know what they're doing. It's somewhere between a written sketch and improv. But I love that Ben Schwartz here, he's playing it straight. In a certain way, he's being no but. He's like saying, no, this isn't right.
Interesting.
Yet somehow it totally works. And when I listen to this, I'm like, oh, is this like an advanced version of improv?
The fact of the matter is you only have to go to the dentist once when you're a kid and you have baby teeth, and once when you're an adult and you have big teeth.
There's no way that's correct.
It is. Right, Mark?
100%. That's not. You're going to have to retract it tomorrow.
That's a study that came out of the UK yesterday.
You're telling me right now that the only time you have to go to the dentist is once when you're a child and you have baby teeth, and once when you're an adult and you have an adult teeth?
According this guy.
Who? Tell me who, Mark.
That's according to... Now, this is coming from...
Don't name a random person. Who is it?
Anders.
I'm almost sure we're gonna have to retract that tomorrow, right, Mark?
Definitely not.
How many times have you been to the dentist? How many times have you been to the dentist?
Well, that's anecdotal evidence, so it
So
doesn't
just
matter.
give me a number.
I haven't.
He's never been.
I have hard teeth.
He's never been.
I have hard teeth.
It's so good. Like, I love that so much, but I also think that, like, technically is Ben Schwartz
Yeah.
breaking the first rule of improv, but it's funnier this way.
I think you're right. I think that is just super advanced level of it. So in other words, yeah, the truism is you always say yes but I guess if you're operating at a high enough level, you can just say no a bunch. But as long as everybody can go with it.
Yes, and that
It's
might
still
have
a
been,
thing.
and I'm sure, and again, like, I don't think that this is there's a whole set, there are costumes, like, I don't think this whole thing is just like, all right, we're going to roll now and see what comes out. I'm sure they had that pretty well set up as to what the joke was going to be, or at least what the beats of the conversation were going to be, so he's playing that role. I don't see enough of that show to know if he's always kind of taking on that sort of, like, adult role or parent role of the conversation, but man, that 45 seconds you sent me is maybe my favorite tape that I have right now. I listened to it like 100 times.
I think he's coming to a casino near me, actually. Ben Schwartz. It's like
Really?
Ben Schwartz and friends at the Ailene Casino in like north of Vancouver, Washington, which would be kind of an interesting place to go see that. Oh, you know who else is coming to a casino near me?
The man who brought the rock and roll edge to the Eagles.
No,
Who
but
is that,
seriously,
Glenn
Ben
Fry?
Schwartz is coming to the Ailene Casino. And I'm like, I wonder who the demo for this is. Like, it's me, obviously, but I feel like not to be too, like, I don't know, congratulatory about myself, but I think the Venn diagram of people who have as many free stays booked up at the Ailene Casino and also who watched Middleditch and Schwartz, the Venn diagram overlap might be me.
I need to find something for you here. I have been hearing, Luke, I'm trying to think if I heard it once or twice. I got in the car yesterday, and I heard a commercial for the EQC Casino, the kind of commercial that and I hear all the time. And so, no, shoot, I won't find it online because I don't think it was EQC. I think it was Snoqualmie. What is the casino that it is a native-run casino, and their jingle really sort of leans into sort of a native sound. Do you know what I'm talking about? We hear them during Mariners games all the time. It's a modern sound, but clearly influenced by a sort of like kind of native percussive
I'm
sound.
going to name the major casinos in the area. You have Muckleshoot.
Muckleshoot it is. Yes. Can you think of the Muckleshoot jingle right now? As I described.
What's interesting is the Muckleshoot used to have like a Rasta guy for many years.
Oh.
And it was like do 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 do. And it was like a guy going, I will actually not do it. But there was a guy who was sounding very sort of jolly and like he might have been like the third like whaler from the Whalers, like who was always like the biggest and best in the Northwest at Muckleshoot, but he was saying it with a very sort of like Rasta kind of vibe.
Well, this is different now, and I might be missed kind of describing it. I always think of it as somebody who kind of enjoys thinking about jingles and what you're going for there. You're going for catchiness, you're going for, but also I sort of feel like whatever jingle, for lack of a better word, they use right now, kind of is like Muckleshoot.
It's the biggest and best in the Northwest, right?
Yeah, and that's when it always drives me crazy.
Oh yeah, it's like doont do doont. Muckleshoot.
Muckleshoot.
That's the new one.
Yes.
That's the new one. The old one was Rasta Guy, which, again, I thought was an interesting branding.
I also love it when they say, and find out why they call us the biggest and best in the Northwest. I'm like, we know why, because you invented that in the marketing meeting, and you decide, like, it's not like people were going around. That wasn't word on the street, Muckleshoot Casino. But anyway, when you hear a Muckleshoot Casino, when you hear that music cut in, you're ready for them to either advertise, come stay and play deals or something like that, or like some sort of a musician that is like very much like, the man who brought the rock and roll edge to the Eagles. And
I'm not familiar with that.
I got in the car yesterday. I swear it's like a movie. I turned on the car, but instead of blowing up like in the movie Casino, spoilers, I think that happens at the first scene.
It would have been a really different show today if you'd blown up in your car out of the movie Casino yesterday.
How's the finger? Well, the finger's fine.
Oddly enough, it dislodged the splinter.
The rest of the body we have some issues with.
It also dislodged the body.
It starts with this music, and it would only be funny if I could play the tape for you, and I'm sorry I can't. But it begins with that music, and then I'm ready for them to say who's coming to the Muckleshoot Casino, and it starts with some line that's like, do you ever wonder what happens after death? And then you're like, what am I listening to? And you realize they have some sort of a, I don't know if it's a hypnotist, an illusionist. They have somebody who speaks to the spirits.
A medium.
Like more of a medium. They're advertising a medium, but it starts with the darkest
James Van
line ever.
Prague, if you will.
Who is that?
He was a medium who was big in the 80s and 90s. I think his name was James Van Prague. He popped up on the it was something Van Prague, and he was on your Phil Donahue's and your other things like that, and he was supposedly talking to people on the other side.
I want to find. I'm looking for the. I'm at the Muckleshoot Casino calendar here to figure out. I mean, here
we
event
got
center.
the Giggle Squad.
Yes,
and then
right.
Don
Wait.
Felder, and then James Van Prague. Is that the lineup?
Wait, here. I think it is. I think it might be this young fella named Tyler Henry. Do we know who Tyler Henry is?
Does not ring a bell.
Let me see here. Tyler Henry looks too young. Yeah, no, Tyler Henry is a medium. Maybe you want to look this up.
I'm doing it.
I'm on Tyler Henry's website now. He's a very, very young medium. I can't get over the age thing. I'm sorry. I'm an old man.
He's got powerful Macaulay Culkin vibes.
Yeah. Not inaccurate there. And I wish I could find the copy for this commercial because it begins so dark. You are ready for a what is it, Felder? What's the name of the rock?
Don Felder, the man
you're
who brought
waiting
the
for
rock and
like
roll
a
age to the
kind
Eagles?
yeah, you're waiting for like a Don Felder promo, but instead it's kind of like, have you ever
Man who brought the rock and roll edge to the Eagles.
For a second I thought you found it. I was like, man, this is such a
I'm
dark
looking
way to
at Tyler
start a
Henry's
commercial.
Wikipedia page. He's an American reality show star, personality who appears in the reality show series Hollywood Medium.
Oh, there you
with
go.
Tyler Henry.
All right, this is my last attempt at this. I found who we were talking about. Will I be able to find a Muckleshoot radio? You can never find radio commercials online.
Mhm.
The internet hates the radio commercials. You can,
And they hate our podcast, which is
Yeah.
often just us trying to describe a radio commercial we heard. They could
That's
make it
right.
a lot easier on us.
Why haven't they? Okay, I'll give up on this because I'm really too distracted to continue talking to you. But
basically,
keep an ear
it sounds
out
like
for it.
it sounds like what you're saying is much in the way that I was talking about whomever it was at the other casino, like appearing there. Like it's a weird fit. Like, I was saying, like, who's going to go see Ben Schwartz at the A-Lene? Like, I get, who's going to go? I get maybe people that saw John Ralphio on Parks and Rec.
Yeah, yeah.
What's his highest profile thing? It's a
Yeah,
weird.
that's that probably.
It's just, again, it's like I could totally see an improv show starring Ben Schwartz in Portland, but out where that casino is, out where I am, it's like I walk those streets. It's not a Middleditch and Schwartz group. And back to your point, it seems a weird fit to send a bunch of people or entice a bunch of people to a casino ballroom to then talk to their dead grandparents and then also, I guess, go out and play a bunch of money on Lightning Link. Like, it just seems energetically like a strange thing.
Although I will say, even though this commercial was hilarious the way it started and it was so shocking, I can picture.
You think this guy might be legit?
First of all, I think the guy's definitely legit. Okay. Definitely. I want to see if he can get me to talk to my old Clink Clink. Died a couple of years ago.
Did she tell you something that only you would know?
I always remember somebody was talking about like some medium or something and said, you have a job, or somebody in your life has a job where they wear boots. And I always think about that one. I heard that when I was a kid, and it stuck in my head because like somebody was like impressed by it. Somebody else was like, almost everybody has somebody in their life whose job requires them to wear boots.
I would be shocked if somebody didn't have one person in their life whose job involved wearing boots.
Yeah, who is it in your life? Is it old Walt?
Well, Walt certainly will, depending on what he's doing, he'll wear some boots. Let's see, who else in my life?
Because I'm trying to think, it could be non-work boots too.
Right. Although I think my guess would be that particular medium, and also thinking about where you were in Ohio or something, that was definitely casting a wide net.
Yes, definitely. But
so Tyler Henry is coming to the Muckleshoot Casino to, cross over and talk to people who are. I mean, whatever. Everybody's got to make a living, and obviously there are people. The people who go to those kinds of things, I think they, generally speaking, they probably enjoy it because they are going in hoping that they're able to contact someone who they miss greatly. Yeah. And even though I think it is clearly a sham, if a person If you were to go to that thing at the Muckleshoot and then you were to think that you talked to your clink clink and then you went home feeling happy, is that a harm to you? Is my question.
Oh, that's interesting.
I guess when they start separating you from your money, it becomes a harm.
Yes, I think so. Okay, so one thing, just to complete my thought from before, because now I'm all over the place, I got to stop looking for this. Just tell me it doesn't exist online, Luke, and I'll close this
Hey,
out.
Andrew, they didn't put that online.
They didn't. I'm really disappointed. I wanted you to hear it. That whole story, I mean, it's got us talking, but, like, really the whole point of that is how amazing it sounds to hear this music come in, and then the first line being like, do you ever wonder what happens after you're 6 feet under? Keep an ear out for it. It airs during Mariners games. That's the best we can do on that. Okay, I would say, though, that I think Ben Schwartz is a bigger stretch for the casino going crowd.
Oh, 100%. I agree.
The mediums, actually, I'm kind of like, oh, yeah. I mean, I'm sure. I don't want to talk down to that or sound classist to talk about people who do that. But, yeah, I mean, if you're somebody who really truly believes that all you need is, like, to put $5 more back into this machine and that's going to be your payday. Not that I don't enjoy some of that stuff, too, but I could totally see a bunch of people in that crowd also believing that they can talk to their nana. But is that something that people call grandparents? I don't think so. Ben Schwartz seems like a bigger... I mean, I would
reach.
Yeah, I would go to Ben Schwartz obviously before this other one, but like it does seem like who is going to show up to that? Like he plays in the I guess you're the guy because he plays
also,
in like the fringes of comedy a lot.
He very much does, and my guess is that a significant. Well, I don't know. You know, believe it or not, for all the time I've spent at that casino, I've never been to a show there, so I guess I don't know officially who it is, but that goes. But my assumption is. It's a sort of an enticement, like it's a giveaway. Like if you get a certain number of casino points, I bet you that a lot of the tickets to those shows are basically casino rewards to people that are frequent flyers at the casino. Which is, if you're Ben Schwartz and friends, because that's what it is. It's Ben Schwartz and friends. If you're Ben Schwartz and friends, that's a rough crowd, I would imagine. People who are there because one of the weird things about not just that casino, but casinos across America, Andrew, is that they will, in order to get people to come in and play a bunch of money, and oftentimes a bunch of money that they probably, maybe shouldn't be losing there, they will entice them with all these sort of free giveaways. But the things that they give away are the weirdest things. So you'll walk into that casino sometimes, and there will just be literally hundreds of people just walking around the casino holding like a mini waffle iron in a box.
Right. Yes.
Because it's like Tuesday, and if you're like a whatever level person, you get your free prize, and it's a mini waffle iron, or it's like a taco folder or something. And like, it's an item. I mean, it's, it's straight off of Temu, and it retails for $8 and it costs $4 to make, if that. And somebody had to lose $8,000 to get their taco folder, but then you just see these people carry. And again, listen, these are my people, so I'm not trying to talk down to anyone, but you just see folks wandering around the casino holding as you would call it, unitasker, a task of which does not even need solving, and they're just clinging to it it's like a piece of driftwood that floated past them in the ocean of their attempts at dopamine hit. And it's all they have to show for what they've been through, and they'll be goddamned if they are not going to go there on Tuesday at 4 p.m. to get their taco folder.
Yeah.
And those are also the people that will be going and seeing Ben Schwartz and friends.
Some sort of off-brand foot massager, like God knows what.
On a good day.
It reminds
me of back scratcher.
That
that thing that my dad uses that's like the weird...
the actual back scratcher thing?
Tines.
We had one of those. Oh, no, we had a different one. You're talking about the Tines. I know what you're talking about.
Well, my dad plays in all of those spaces.
Yeah. I had the biggest dad moment of my life. Keep in mind, I have no children, but I'm trying to think. Some day recently, I was working out in the yard. Not working out. I was doing work in the yard. I was doing a bunch of yard work, and I was itchy. And I had an itch right in the center of my back, right between my shoulder blades, and I couldn't reach it with my hand.
Did you go full grizzly bear?
I went into the garage, and I took that little tiny hand rake that you have in any gardening kit. It's like the 3-prong hand.
Yes.
I reached over my back. I scratched it. I made an audible sound. It felt so good. And I'm realizing, oh, this is Bob Walsh circa like 1990. Like, I saw my dad do this shit so much. Like, he was obsessed with he'd always get itches in the middle of his back, or he'd be like, come here. Get the scratch, like, get the itch right. And he would like tell you where to go on your bed. Did you have to ever be your parents' like itch relievers, or is this getting too personal?
I didn't have that job. I grew up in a very gendered household, so that was probably my sister's job. No, my sisters would honestly put barrettes in my dad's hair at night, which is slightly different, but then he would fall asleep because it was like a head massage. But my dad travels with a back scratcher, and it's one of those, like, it's wood, and at the end of it, it's just like a little claw. You know?
Okay, yeah, that's the kind we had growing up. Only
The
ours was a little
typical one.
plastic one that looked like a hand. It was actually fashioned like a human hand, which is weird. Yeah.
My dad has one of those, and there has never been a time that he has been at my house, working on my house, where that thing has not been sitting on the coffee table in the living room.
Yeah.
And you know me, I was complaining about the Sean Bean DVDs the other day. This guy travels with like a kind of a random assortment of things, but the one constant is this back scratcher. This man is never far from his back scratcher. And then when he leaves, he takes it with him. Like, it's not like he leaves it there. This is have back scratcher, will travel, Walter Burbank, the man who brought the back scratcher to the Eagles.
What you should do if he ever visits the Eagles club that I belong to, he could bring the back scratcher. You should, I mean, why don't you? I don't want to tell you your business. I know you've already put a lot of money into this man, but why don't you get him a stay-at-home back scratcher for your place? That way you can leave one at his house and he can have a back scratcher at your house. That'd be a very sweet
But then
gesture.
I have a shitty back scratcher at my house.
But you wouldn't get a shitty one. You would get like some sort of fancy one with lasers.
He would not like it. This is the thing about this man.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I'm constantly trying to fancify him, and he is constantly... He's polite about it, but he does not want anything fancy. He loves this. It's made out of bamboo, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's thin, blonde bamboo wood with a little curved monkey paw at the end, which is probably cursing the entire house and project. But that's all he needs. And you're right. If I were to get myself a back scratcher, first thing I would do is I'd go to Wirecutter on the New York Times, and I would read about the 5 back scratchers that they tried that they thought were the best, and then I would get one that was probably designed by Eero Saarinen. And, it'd be $300, and I'd be like, but it's like, this is the last back scratcher you'll ever buy. And then I would also come on the show and explain to you, Andrew, that I'm not the kind of person anymore who keeps buying back scratchers and then losing them. I'm not just going to buy the easiest, closest back scratcher. I'm a kind of guy who buys one back scratcher for the rest of my life.
Yes.
Yeah, I do the research. Yeah, it's more. It's $300. But then you never have to get another back scratcher.
Well, you're going to buy 2, though, just to have one as a backup.
I mean, yes.
Right,
so it's $600.
Right, but it's just,
because I don't, what happens, if I lose the lifetime back scratcher, I can't be without a back scratcher, so you definitely need a backup.
Because that's kind of your personality now. I would say here's the one improvement they can make to these back scratchers, especially if people are treating them like travel back scratchers. And I don't know if they make this or not, but what they need is one that articulates. Is that the right word? What you need is a co-host who articulates, by the way. But like, you know how like back before laser pointers, we would have professors that used literal pointers and they would like extend it. It would basically be like a TV antenna, only it wasn't connected to anything. You just need one of those so that you can collapse it and then use it, take it on the airplane.
They make those, and I think they're even shittier looking.
Oh, okay.
They look exactly like you described. They look sort of like a car antenna from the olden days that would expand.
Yeah.
But then they have a little metal hand on them.
Yeah, you don't like it? You've researched this.
Oh, I've seen them.
Yeah.
I feel like they're very unaesthetic. I would go with my dad's weird bamboo one over the collapsible one. Although you're right, it is more practical for it to be a collapsible.
You throw that in your go bag, sure. It sounds like you've been to a lot of back scratching stores. You're like, oh no, I know that you're talking about the PR54, but no, the bamboo one is actually better.
Yes, I used to hang out at the back scratcher store at Northgate Mall. It was right next to the cutlery store that had a full knight in armor out in front of it.
Genevieve and I were just talking about that recently. Have we had this conversation before? I had, like, literally, Luke, sometime within the past 10 days or so, I was having major flashbacks of this store that was in Northgate Mall, but specifically it was the store that was sort of the border store between the regular mall and the food area, the food court area.
Okay, sure.
And so like I was just having these weird memories of like you had this food court, but then there were two non-food stores in the food court. One was a record store. There was like a couple of main record stores in the mall, but then there was this hidden record store that was sort of in the back of the food court area. I don't know why.
And when you say record store, do you mean music store?
Yeah, you know, like music.
Like a Tower
at the
Records
time, it would have been
like
CDs and tapes. I don't think they sold actual records, but you know what I mean. It was like a 1990s era, you know, Sam Goody or something in the mall. I don't think we had Sam Goodies. And that was in the back of the food court for some reason. There was an arcade in the back of the food court, but there was this one store that was like kind of, if you're leaving the food court, it's sort of the first store you can shop in, and it had a big suit of armor guarding it at the where you'd walk in, and then they sold all kinds of knives and swords and stuff. And where are those stores now?
That must have been a thing. Like, in other words, the word must have gone out to those kinds of stores that, again, swords, knife sharpening,
Yep,
knives, whatnot. Because you're talking, you said, I believe you said Northgate, but you meant, was there a mall called Northgate?
I'm sorry, Great Northern Mall. Northgate is where I live now. I was getting my timelines confused. They're Great Northern
in
Mall.
Ohio, you also had one of these stores, and they also had a full-on knight in front of it.
Yes,
that must have been the move. That must have been like, that was the way that they. I mean, certainly it stuck in our brains. I don't think the knight was for sale. Although that would have been...
No, I don't think so either. Boy, it's given me a lot of results, but it says, well, here's everything you typed into Google without the word knight in it. I'm like, no, knight is really critical. I thought somebody would be online like reminiscing about their time in Cleveland and the knight. Let's see here. Might have been called, well, no, anyway.
Suit of armor?
Yeah, that's true. Maybe I should type in suit of armor. But you know what? I think what the lesson I've really learned is I need to stop doing this today. I am just striking out. I'm just like...
I need to interrupt you more to stop you from searching for suits of armor.
I'm Donovan Solano when it comes to finding things online today.
We was hoping for some razzle-dazzle.
Razzle-dazzle.
That's right, man. Razzle-dazzle.
On your mark.
On your mark.
Get set.
Get set.
Now ready.
Ready. Go.
Everybody razzle dazzle.
All right, let's thank some dazzling donors. These people could have bought a full suit of armor, Andrew, in front of a cutlery store at a mall somewhere, but they didn't. They saved that money. They invested it. They compounded the interest, and now they're passing some of that largesse on to TBTL.
So that we can invest it for them, double their money, and then we all buy a bigger suit of armor together.
That's rich.
That's rich.
$100 a week. Whatever they say. This, of course, is listener-supported podcasting you're hearing right now. And it's supported by listeners like Jennifer Wolf. Jennifer says the pronunciation is like every third woman born in the 1970s. Also, plus the animal.
Wolf.
That's right.
Love
Jennifer is in Aurora, Colorado, and says, Biz Boys, thanks for being a port in the storm. This political climate has been hard on my consulting firm, Project Mosaic, that serves indigenous communities and those wanting to engage with tribes or indigenous peoples globally. Despite the fact that several of my clients do not even exist or had to cancel contracts even remotely related to DEI. Let me read that line again. Despite the fact that several of my clients do not even exist or had to cancel contracts even remotely related to DEI, my team is okay, and I will continue to prioritize my support for TBTL because y'all are incredibly important for my mental well-being. Thanks, Jennifer. Yeah. We really appreciate it. When my mind is swirling with gloom and doom, tuning in to chat about mustard or Roku sticks or suits of armor is just what I need.
How did you know? How did you know?
Jennifer is really on the ball with this stuff. What you do is so important. Ugh. I sometimes sign off as Jenver from Denver.
Oh, I like that.
I like that a lot, actually. Or something like that. But I moved to the burbs closer to the airport. So that would mean Jennifer, she moved closer to the airport, which means she's still 3 hours from Denver International Airport.
That's right. That's always your take on that airport.
But I moved out to the burbs closer to the airport, so now I'm Jen the Aurora 10 until I think of something better.
I like
Maybe Jennifer who lives by Blucifer? ? Power out.
What about
Jennifer?
What about Blucigen?
Jensifer?
Jensifer. That sort of sounds like we're shipping her though. Like we're kind of making them a couple. Like
Right, like we're benefiting them. Like it's like
I don't
like
want that.
Jennifer and Blucifer
I don't
enter
want
some
that.
sort of committed partnership.
No, we're not. We're not going in that direction. I like Gen the Aurora 10. That's pretty cool.
That's very cool. You know, when I was in Colorado not that long ago and taking a Lyft to the airport, my Lyft driver, who seemed highly informed, she said that Blucifer might be going away, and I was like,
"What?"
That was the only thing she said that I found maybe not as highly informed, because I was like, this is one of the main things that people know about the Denver airport. Like, why in the world would Blucifer go away?
Yeah, and also, wouldn't we have heard about that? That's another thing that, like, if
Right.
there's Blucifer news, it is sent to us pretty quickly, right?
Precisely. So, Jennifer, you've already done so much for the show. And by the way, everybody go check out Project Mosaic
Yes.
if you need any help in that department. But when you're not doing all of that, Jennifer, could you find out if they're taking Blucifer down? And then could you organize a protest for them to not take Blucifer down? Because, you know, an anatomically correct horse that killed its creator, you don't find that every day.
Also, we're going to need your size for the suit of armor. You can send that to me privately, Andrew at tbtl.net.
Yeah, DM him.
I'm not sure exactly what. I don't know how suits of armors are sized, to be honest with you.
Maestro?
On your mark. On your mark. Get set. Get set. Now ready. Ready. Go. Everybody razzle dazzle.
The other dazzling donor we need to thank is Brian Smolenski out there in Squim, Washington.
Hello, Brian.
Hola, Cobros. As always, thanks to you for another 260 episodes. I see somebody's done the math, Andrew, on what 5 times 52 is. I believe that comes to $1.92 per episode for me. What a great value for my entertainment investment. I don't think in all these years, Andrew, I've ever broken it down that way for folks.
That's interesting. So 260 episodes, because that's how many weekdays are in a year? That seems low.
Well, 52 weeks in a year, and we put out a new show every single weekday of the year, even if it's a summer or winter game. It's always a new show. So that's 52 times 5, right?
Yeah, which is 260. So there you go. There are 260 weekdays in a year. Seems like weekends are doing more than I would have thought. Yeah, 350.
I'm really glad that Brian feels like $1.92 per episode is a good deal, because I'm not sure how I feel about that.
I like that.
It's less than a cup of coffee.
It's certainly less than a cup of coffee.
The number one unit of measurement for trying to get people to give you money is the price of a cup of coffee,
Which
and
is
being less than.
No joke, like not to actually become the bit here, but if you go to Starbucks, which I never do, and it's pretty rare that I go to any coffee shop these days. What are you paying for? Let's just say, is you get a basic order, a black coffee or maybe an Americano or something like that, right? If you get a medium size, what are you getting?
I can't tell you what a Starbucks coffee costs you because I haven't been there in a while, but I can tell you that when I was in Davenport, they had a coffee shop in the hotel, and I was getting my iced coffee there, and I was paying $5, and that was just a cold brew. You know, it's basically black coffee that they've just chilled down, and they're pouring it over some ice. That was running me $5 plus
and that's
tip.
Iowa. You know what I mean? I
and
mean,
it's Davenport bucks.
Not that there is a cost of living difference between Iowa and Seattle. So or Squim, I should say.
That's what I'm saying, Brian. You
yeah.
are getting a hell of a deal for this. Thank you for acknowledging that.
Yes.
I'd like to shout out to the best family a man can ask for. My kids are Wayne, Patrick, Bobby, Katrina, Joe. They're all 10s.
Nice.
Where's
Holy
my
cow.
bell?
I
Ding,
got a
ding,
bell.
ding to the Smolenskis. And to my lovely, long-suffering 11, Kim. Sounds like Kim is tolerating this. Sounds like the other Smolenskis are really leaning into the TBTL experience.
And
thank you.
This is okay, listen. I know we don't have to sell Brian on this. It sounds like we might still have to sell Kim a little bit, although Brian's been a supporter for a long time here. $1.92 per episode, being enjoyed by Brian, Wayne, Patrick, Bobby, and Katrina Joe, all
Honestly,
for $1.92
per person,
You can't afford
amortized.
not to support this show.
I mean, we're paying the Smolenskis.
Yes.
If you per person, this is costing us over 12 cents per person. Reach out to me if you need help with any of your tax needs.
That's right.
Burbank and Burbank Accounting, pretty good at this. And if I might ask for one thing, this is Brian asking here, if you might replay one of my favorite voicemails from the show. It was from Stu after he lost his job from APM and he's in his backyard enjoying a cigarette. This might be difficult to locate, by the way. I still recall it with great joy, and please bring back sports ball talk. Thank you again.
Okay, Luke, let me jump in here. So this request for this voicemail confused me. I remembered Stubot recording a video after, I thought either after he had quit a job or was laid off. I thought he had recorded a video for us where he was like lounging in his backyard, but it turns out that is not what Brian is talking about. I texted the Stubot yesterday this message from Brian. I said, does this ring any bells to you at all? And within 5 minutes, he had a show number and a timestamp. I said, how did you find that so quickly? He's like, well, I knew around what time I got laid off. And then I looked at the show descriptions, and a show description ended with, we also got a disturbing voicemail from our friend Stu, or something along the lines of that. So I looked it up, and I haven't pulled this, so I got to kind of like needle drop it around the 57-minute mark. We're getting into voicemails. And again, we're going to set this all up on the tape. This is going back to August 13th, 2015. But the Stubot, our dear friend, had just been laid off from American Public Media. And keep in mind, Luke, we joined American Public Media in March of 2015, right? So we've only been knowing and working with the Stubot for a few months now, but he quickly became part of the culture.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember that. So let's see here if I can.
And so he wanted to leave us a little voicemail about kind of how he's doing in life right now. So take it away, Stu.
Hey guys, it's Stu. I'm just giving you an update on how things are going here. They're going pretty all right. There's been a couple changes, obviously, that's going to happen. Andrew, like you told me to, I think I made that clear last time, I took up smoking for your advice, and it's awesome. But Mandy, my wife, gave me a choice. It's either family or the full flavor of parliaments. So anyway, I live in a really cozy apartment now. It's in St. Cloud's. It's an up-and-coming neighborhood. It's called Stabtown, and it's frighteningly accurate, but I hear gentrification's not too far away. It's a utility apartment. It's got one of those Murphy beds, which is really cool, but that is where all the spiders live, so I just kind of fall asleep on the floor crying and really get a tortured night's sleep. I do have a roommate. His name is Glenn, and Glenn, I'm on the phone. I'm talking to my friends. F you, Glenn. No, I do two have friends. Their names are Luke and Andrew. I want my hot plate back, you. Oh, sorry, guys. Anyway, Glenn is pretty cool most of the time, and he's really focused on recruiting the pure of blood for his war against the government. So, sounds like I got a pretty full week ahead of me. Anyway, you guys have a good one.
So he's doing great. There you go.
I would like to, and everybody knows this if you listen to the show, I would like to remind everyone that the Stubot went on to work at Surly Brewing and become their head of words and write so many interesting things, including one of the most viral things that anybody I've ever known has created around the Super Bowl, I believe, when it was coming to Minnesota. And it's a lesson to all of us that sometimes you're living with Glenn and trying to get your hot plate back, and then you turn around and suddenly you have your awesome dream job that is orders of magnitude better.
That has made you a local
household name,
locally, and a celebrity. Now you're hanging out with people like Norm Charlton.
Exactly, the Norm Charlton. So, shout out to our friend the Stubot, and also shout out to Brian for supporting TBTL. We really appreciate you.
Hello and welcome to Top Story.
I'm actually really glad, Andrew, that we went on so many, as my old science teacher, Mr. Bain, would call them, bird walks today, because that's also sufficiently buried this story, so fewer people will hear it, including people who may have been in the room, or should I say in the food court, when this story occurred. We were filming out at the world's largest truck stop yesterday, and we were really intent on trying to talk to some more truckers, just people that use the place and what they like about it and what their life is like as truckers. And we had both days that we were there, somebody who's sort of does public relations and branding for the truck stop, who was super helpful, actually, like just kind of showing us around and getting us appointments with different people and things. But this person, it was clear to me that she also really wanted a certain, I guess, image of both the truck stop. By the way, the place is really nice. So that wasn't like, we weren't there to try to run the truck stop down or anything. But also the idea of who does trucking. It became very clear to me at some point that this PR person would really have liked it if we didn't interview like your sort of stereotypical grizzled trucker, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
And so what had happened over the course of a couple of days was we had interviewed everybody but that person. You know, we had interviewed women who were truck drivers, and we had interviewed young families that drove their truck together, and people of color who were like a younger, a black, like 23-year-old guy who didn't, whatever we think of trucking as being, he didn't sort of look like that idea of trucking. We had talked to so many people that represented kind of the new group of folks that tend to drive trucks, which is great. We had that really well covered. What we had not talked to is one person who looked like they were out of central casting for being a trucker.
Think of Pee-wee's Big Adventure, circa 1989.
Yes, we didn't have a large Marge. We didn't have a large Mitch. We did not have the kind of, again, that person. And just out of an abundance of wanting to cover all of our bases, I just thought, well, we should talk to anybody who comes in who looks interesting. And we also wanted to kind of get a little footage of inside of the cab of one of these modern trucks, because they're actually pretty interesting. They're like little apartments now, and people really deck them out and stuff. That turned out to be its whole own thing, its whole own challenge, which was basically approaching truckers in the parking lot going, "Can we come into your home, please?"
Yeah, how did that go? I mean, it was kind of awkward.
We found a couple people who allowed us to, but there were a lot of no's. It took a lot of no's to get to a couple of yeses, let me put it that way. But there was this sort of building thing where it felt like we're just standing around in this truck stop, and then people would come in, and then I'd be conferring with the producer or one of the camera guys or something like, oh, maybe we can go talk to them. And the PR person was really sort of went from being like, oh, I'd sort of appreciate it if maybe we didn't go in that direction, to at one point this person said, I was like, oh, that person would be great. This guy walked in, he had like a Santa Claus beard. He had one of those. One of the things you notice about the modern trucker world is that they love the headset. They're big on the headset, which I think is a repudiation of modern Bluetooth and speakerphone technology, if that makes any sense. And also that in-car thing that I think a lot of people are way overconfident about their in-car built-in speaker for talking to people on the cell phone.
Yes.
Because it sounds like crap. If I'm in my car, I'll use the speakerphone on my phone when talking to someone, because I do not trust that built-in microphone in my car. And all you need to know about that is the people who spend the most time driving from here to there, talking to their friends and loved ones, they're all wearing those little headsets. So anyway, this guy looks like Santa Claus. He's wearing like some like Zubas, those kind of like baggy kind of wrestling pants. He's got a big old beard. He's got the thing on. I'm like, that guy looks great. And the PR person just says, absolutely not. And if you can imagine, this has been building now. I've been trying to kind of be like, well, don't worry. We're going to present a sort of well-rounded, robust picture of the people that use this place. But it was when this person said to me, Andrew, absolutely not.
Yeah.
That something shifted internally. And I just said, I need to explain something to you. We are journalists. We are going to talk to who we want to talk to. We are not going to present some contrived image that you want to be presented for your business. That's not what we do here. You are not in control of who we talk to. Am I being clear? And when I realized I was probably going a little hard was when I saw our sound guy, who's about 6'5", very solidly built guy, cowering behind the PR person. The look of horror on the face of our sound guy, who was recently in Ukraine, miking up Nora O'Donnell for the war. When I saw him cowering, I realized I might have been going 2 clicks harder on this than I needed to. But there was no, in the words of Katy Perry, there's no going back. And I also felt like if I tried to, at that point, basically I was committed to this. I didn't, by the way, I didn't yell and I didn't use any bad words and I didn't insult the person. I just was very direct and very like just stern, I guess. But again, not inaccurate, but just these things, what happens with these things is you're the journalist and then there's some person that's from the whatever the organization is, and you have one of those real surfacey kind of friendly conversations where you're like, and everyone's just like this the whole time, and hey, oh, can we get a hand with that? And great, okay, well, we'll send you and we'll let you know when it's going to be on. And that's the level of how these conversations go. And then all of a sudden it just got really real. But then what happened was we then went out to do something else, and I think to this person's credit, she just like, she said, okay, and then she shifted right into some other conversation that was related to what we were doing.
That's there in the moment, because that's what I want. That's what I was waiting for, to hear what she does.
Well,
in the
as
moment.
we started walking to the next location.
So you say this, you kind of unload
I say
on
all
her,
of this in
and
the food
then
court.
and the reaction is?
The reaction is, okay. And then we were off to our next thing, and again, this person picked the conversation right back up about work stuff, about stuff we were there doing. So we didn't, there wasn't like a weird, like this person didn't leave and then come back with like slightly red puffy eyes.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Or didn't yell back at me. Like we just kind of moved on to the next thing and kind of pretended like it didn't happen.
You had a real capiche moment.
A capiche, Andrew.
Capiche? I'm a journalist. Capiche?
Capiche? Don't you ever tell me that again in your life. Capiche?
Capiche.
But what ended up happening was we moved on so quickly that then it became the kind of thing where it was going to be more weird if I brought it up again at some point. We still had 4 hours to work together as a group. And I think everybody was mildly shook up about it.
But wait, did you talk to the Santa Claus guy or not? You
No.
said we'll talk to whoever we want to talk to. We're
Santa Claus
journalists.
guy had already left.
And he's just gone now. Okay.
He's in the wind.
All
He's
right.
got on his sleigh.
Yeah.
On Dasher. On Blitzen. That's the 2 reindeer I can name. He was already, and by the way, I didn't even really care about talking to him specifically. What I cared about was being told absolutely not.
Yeah.
In a journalistic, I mean, to the degree that I'm doing journalism.
That's kind of the thing here. And again, I don't want to insult what you're doing.
It's a pretty big red line.
It is a big red line, and I have those instincts too. And I'm so far out of that world now. But there are definitely times when I'm booking something for a show or trying to do something journalistic, and I got dressed down. I was relatively new here in Seattle, and this guy who was kind of well liked that I absolutely hated, who ran PR for the Seattle Police Department, was like, they have very, very strict rules about going directly through their PR department if you want to talk to a cop or
Whitcomb?
It was. And he wasn't giving me what I wanted. And so I don't know what, I was just like, you and I were trained similarly. Like, I was like, well, I don't just take who they give me. I'll start.
Yeah.
And I started digging, and I found contact information for cops. I don't know what I was looking for, but he caught wind that I was going around him and finding cops. And then he, like, I've never been dressed down before. He was like, he even said, this is like the military. The people to talk to us go through us. And he's like yelling at me. And I'm like saying, and now keep in mind, I am somebody who at one point had been the EP of my own radio show in New Hampshire, but I'm now working for free for another radio station in Seattle where I'm trying to break in. So it's like a weird dynamic. And I don't want, now I'm just telling you this whole story and interrupting yours. I apologize, but I remember being nervous.
This is not a show where we interrupt people, Andrew.
But of course, our friend Trish Murphy, who just came up on the show recently because I was on her podcast, Seattle Now, recently, and she was pretty
Suddenly Seattle.
She was really covering the cop beat at the time, and this Whitcomb dude literally threatened KOW's access. He's like, "You don't want to mess this up for Trish." And I'm like, I'm both working for free, but I'm also like, F you, MFer, you don't tell me, like, you can do everything you can to sort of like kind of, whip everything into shape on your side of things and try to make sure that your cops don't talk to me. But I am not following your rules. You don't tell me who I can talk to. Like, if you are able to get everybody to shut up on your end, well, then I guess that's your priority or your prerogative. I was being yelled at and dressed down by a PR guy who was talking to me like I worked for him, and I have never been so offended professionally. Well, that would come later in L.A., but and that was within my own team. But all of that is to say that I will say it's a little bit different. You're doing this piece that there's the only news value.
The stakes
is sort
are
of,
very low here,
and
by the way.
it's a private institution that you're
Yes.
only doing a piece that is. I mean, I would have the same instinct as you, but it's like you're not in the Ukraine. You're not trying to talk to a newsmaker. You are just engaged in something here that is like, isn't this truck stop neat, right?
That was the whole story. And you're right. Like, we were there. This person could have thrown us off the property.
Yeah.
Like, they had, let's just say they were well connected to the people that owned the place. And so essentially, to a degree, what happens, I mean, it's private property. So they were kind of in charge of what happened there in a way.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. What I was reacting to was not the specific situation. It was to the larger question of, like, what is the autonomy? And I know I'm making this sound very high-minded.
No, I'm with you, though.
We're talking about, can you get JoJo's at 3 a.m. at the cafe?
Right.
Like, this is not, I'm not going to win a Murrow award for this. But what basically happened was, I think I was appropriately reacting to the question of if journalists should be allowed to talk to the people they want to. I think I was overreacting to the question of, should I be allowed to talk to this guy that looks like Santa Claus in the food court of a truck stop? And that was the thing. What I should have said was, in the moment, was like, when they said absolutely not, it was the wording too. It was like, absolutely not. It just triggered something inside me that was so intense and very, young and not Jung, but like from a young place. I was just like, I just reared up basically. What I should have said was, when they said absolutely not, I should have just said, hey, listen, I just want to like kind of clear the air here and let you know we're not here to try to make this place look bad or make people who do trucking look bad, but also we just want to get a wide variety of folks. There's all kinds of people that do this job, and we just want to talk to as many of them as we can. That would have been sufficient. I didn't have to good night and good luck her.
Mm-hmm.
The way I did, but then the thing was, it never came up again. And then we had the rest of the day was really actually fine. We got some good interviews. Everybody was friendly. Like, again, we moved. It would have almost been better if this person would have freaked out back on me, and then we would have like had it out and then cleared the air. It was just this situation where I sort of got more intense than I needed to. Nobody brought it up again. We all had a nice rest of the day, and we just never talked about it. So it's sort of unprocessed. It remains unprocessed for me right now because.
But did you think it changed the people that you had access to? And also,
no.
Why did she say absolutely not to him? Is it just because she's like, oh yeah, he's an old crusty guy who's probably going to say something racist or portray truckers in a way we don't want?
Yes. Door number 2. I don't know about the racist thing, but just I think. She works to promote this idea of this truck stop, and it would be cool if the American television viewing public has an idea of truckers as being like all,
young and
sort
cool.
of young, cool, interesting people, like the people that they put in every commercial for everything, very few of whom work at the thing that's being presented. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
In other words, like every industry in America wants you to think that the only people not the only people, but that they have a young person of color and an older white person who's spunky and this person and that person. And like, it's Benetton over here. And it's like, it's a truck stop. So that was what this person wanted the presentation of the industry to be, is a certain way. And by the way, some of that's true. And we were talking to those people. I think that's also part of why I was annoyed, because like literally we had talked to 0 crusty truckers at this point.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that was the only people we were talking to. And they had politely raised the idea that we could show maybe some of the other variety of people who do this job. I was like, we've literally only done that so far, intentionally to a degree. Like when I'm walking around this truck stop, I am looking for people that are not, exclusively old crusty truckers, because I think that's a more interesting, way to talk about this story. But I overreacted because of, again, I was reacting to a larger question in my own mind about journalism, I guess. And then the problem was then it just never came up again. And then everybody was really nice. And then all I could think the whole time was like, is there an opening for me to come in and go, hey, I went a little hard on that, I apologize. It never really presented itself. And it just was one of those things where, and this is rare for me because I'm somebody who always ends up like oversharing, over-explaining, over apologizing if I feel like it's necessary. I'm never just go through the next 4 hours not addressing it, and that's kind of what happened yesterday, which was a weird thing for me.
Yeah, I think this is a little bit different, but it reminds me a little bit of like when Genevieve told me, I think I've told you this before, that I'm a very non-confrontational person, but then I was going through this phase where I was sort of confronting people whose behavior I didn't like as much, but then feeling terrible about it. And I don't even know what that means. I think maybe some examples of interpersonal communication as well as examples of me maybe telling somebody, hey, don't park your car in a bike lane or whatever. But I just remember like confronting people, sometimes getting what I wanted, in fact, but then still feeling awful. Like sometimes I have this thing where it's like, I have more of an edge than I want. I get what I want, and then I feel bad about it or something like that. And Genevieve's like, you can make a decision here. Either you're the type of person who confronts people and lives with it, or you're the kind of person who can't do that, and so you can't live with it, and that's fine, but you can't do both here. She's like, you can't be going out there mixing it up and then coming back and then like feeling regret for the next 12 to 24 hours or something. I did want to say here, though, and I'm not joking, it sounds like I'm setting up a joke, but I almost feel like I got a taste of something yesterday after the show that could have forewarned this sort of very controlling aspect of this PR person. So for the show picks that I choose for tbtl.net and that I put in the podcast feed, I always try to make sure that it's not a gray area as far as the rights of a photo are concerned. That's very important to me. So in other words, if there's just like a photo in the New York Times and we interview somebody from that story, or if we're just talking about it, I'm not just going to the New York Times and stealing their photo that they paid a photographer to take that photo. Like that goes against what I think is morally right when it comes to that kind of stuff. But when there are things like logos, if we've talked about a commercial, take a still image of that, I think that's totally fine. It's part of marketing. And so I was on this website for this world's largest truck stop yesterday while we were doing the show, and their logo is very poppy, you know what I mean? It's kind of a cheapo looking logo, but it's perfect for it's a perfect logo for what they're doing. It's a globe. It says world's largest truck stop in sort of a 1990s era mattress font, sort of mattress commercial font with a big arrow that says Iowa 80. And so I'm like, this is perfect. That will square up perfectly for the website. And I do what I always do when I go to grab a photo off of a website, which is I right click on that image, and then you can usually just get a drop-down menu from your computer browser that just says, what do you want to do here? Do you want to open this in a new tab? Do you want to download this image? Whatever. When you right-click on the world's largest truck stop logo, you don't even get the usual browser drop-down. They have somehow coded into this a pop-up that says not allowed with the international symbol for not allowed, and says permission is required to use the Iowa 80 truck stop images. Click here to request this image. They have their PR shit locked down, Luke. I mean, I've never seen that on a web. I've had websites where it's sort of like you can tell they coded something in there to make it like hard to download their images, and you can always take a screen cap or something if you cared that much about stealing. But I've never seen something so specifically like you right click on it and then it even gives you a chance to click here, and it takes you to a PR page where you can fill out all of your personal information to request use of this image. Like, they are not effing around at Iowa 80.
And they're also, and by the way, thank you for calling it Iowa 80, because the other thing that happened was, I guess that people often call it I-80, which is the name of the freeway.
Yeah.
And it was clearly a burr under the saddle of the folks there that run the place. And again, that's fair. It's the name of the place. They would like the name to be correct. But you just feel like there's a lot of frustration around just like small things like that, like people. And I was talking to the daughter of one of the founders, and she said, yeah, people always call it I-80, including my parents who started it. Which I was like, well, they're the ones who are allowed to. If they want to mess up the name of it, they're probably the ones who are allowed to. But that's interesting about the photo thing. Yeah, I think it's it's family business, and some of the folks in the family are, just really trying to do their best and really like, I guess applying what are seen as sort of best practices around a lot of that stuff. But it's, all of that is to say, I just spent the whole, and then the other thing was I had to get a ride to the airport from our producer. And we had like 45 minutes in the car and also didn't bring it up.
And this is the person who you described, the tall person you described as sort of
No, that's
towering.
the sound guy.
Oh, that's the sound person. Okay.
Different guy. But this guy was there, and like, also that was weird that we didn't talk about it because I just basically like I kind of feel like I embarrassed myself, and talking about it more would have embarrassed me more, which again is not my move. Usually talking about it more is what I do. With anything. But this was one of those things where I didn't talk about it with the crew. I didn't talk about it with the PR person. I didn't talk about it with the producer. We were just sitting in the car talking about Bon Voy or something for 45 minutes. Like at no time did I go, hey, sorry, I got weird back there. Like it's rare for me that something is so embarrassing that I can't actually get to the, hey, sorry, I got weird point in it.
Yeah.
But I kind of couldn't.
You didn't feel like you backing up into that. Like you're kind of
I just didn't want to get into it again. But that's just so unusual for me because no matter how bad something is, my move is to get into it. It was a strange thing to go through a whole day kind of on eggshells that I created, not ever bringing up an elephant in the room. That's my move is when there's an elephant in the room, I start talking about it pretty quickly. I'm almost incapable of not talking about it, you know?
Well, let me ask you this, and I'm seriously, I want to be careful here because my whole life is nothing but cringe moments, and I appreciate you not making me feel worse about them when I talk to you about them on the show. But a real question here, is this the same producer from the Black Carpet story?
No.
Okay. Is
No,
that better or worse?
But
It's better, right?
It's better, but it did occur to me that I may be developing some kind of
right. That's kind of the question.
I'm
like the reputation.
You know what it is? It's the prophecy of Rich, my old neighbor.
Oh,
who
right. Yeah.
said, I've heard you're really difficult. I've heard people at CBS say you're really difficult. By the way, I wasn't in those days.
You were only doing commentaries, or you were just starting to do stories.
I was
or whatever.
just a cub reporter who would never, ever go off on anyone on any shoot. And now it's happened 2 times. And it's like it's the prophecy has been foretold.
Well, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
I mean, kind of almost going there.
The comedy
writes itself. The comedy of my life, Andrew, writes itself.
There's a right way to rock and a wrong way to roll. You can just listen to your soul. Just remember that life is number 1. You can be having so much fun. Just remember that life is much fun. You can be number 1.
All right, Luke, I know we have to be somewhat zippy here because during the break you were like, I don't have time to tell this truck stop story. And I was like, but I'm at the edge of my seat. I need to hear it. I also need more time to prepare the Blurs days. So I will try to be quick here since I'm the reason we're running late. But I will remind people that you can email me, andrew@tvtl.net, if you want to wish somebody a happy Blurs Day. Like this one. Happy Blurs Day to my favorite 10, Aaron from Terry. Every day I hear from you makes the day better. Thank you for being my friend all these years. Love and miss you. Power out, Terry. That's interesting because we're not tarrying, are we?
No.
Look at that.
Come and let us. Terry was a big biblical. I was bragging about how I was throwing down with the pastor guy at the truck stop. And Terry. To tarry together. That
Terry
was a big,
not? Is it usually you're
that
not
was a
supposed to
church
tarry, right? Isn't that like being too slow and
I grew up with tarrying could be an okay thing if you were tarrying with somebody.
Okay.
Like in a kind of a fellowship way.
But it is sort of like a taking your time. Am I right about
Yes.
that? Okay, that's sort of the deal there. Anyway, Terry, that's not the point of this. You wanted to wish
Tarry.
Aaron.
What?
Oh.
No, that's covered with tar. That's different.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. Happy Blurs Day, Aaron, from Terry and us. Judy says, colonoscopy Judy here. I don't know if you remember, Judy was the person who had the colonoscopy when all the power went out at the facility, and she almost had to go to another facility with all of her stuff connected to her. Well, Judy says, colonoscopy Judy here, officially celebrating the 76 years that I referenced in the saga of my outpatient romp. I texted my kids with directions on how to listen to my story on TBTL. My sons sacrificed 4 minutes to listen, while my daughter said she didn't need to tune in because I'd already described it to her in painful detail. The dream of turning my 5s into 10s is still unrealized, but until then, happy Blurs Day to me. Happy Blurs Day, Judy. Annie in Poulsbo. Nope, sorry. There's no I in there. This is just Ann in Poulsbo who says, late happy Blurs Day to Emma. My best Aussie 10 pal. I'm glad your birthday adventure to Melbourne was delightful. I do so enjoy our exchanges. Here's to many more shared adventures through texted pictures. Kim says, happy 40th birthday to myself. I'm a lone 10 in lovely Carnation, Washington. I always think
Carnation
that's a real
is absolutely
dog.
beautiful. By the way, Andrew, sorry, I've got this new computer, and I was thinking, I don't have all my sound effects that people love so much, like this
dog.
one.
Yeah.
But then I realized, no, they're loaded into the program. These are the free sample sound effects. So I do have them. I'm sorry.
I don't know if I remember that those are the, oh my God, those are the cheap sheets.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Kim is lone 10 in lovely Carnation, Washington, seeking to maximize all the happy birthday feels and hear my name on my favorite podcart. While my husband isn't a 10, I'm going to make him listen to this episode so I can wish him a happy 40th birthday as well. Happy B-Day, Joshua. What fun it is to share a birthday year and month with you. Let's go have some fun playing sport.
Aww. That sport could be cycling.
It could be. Nick says...
Could be slide whistling.
Pretty sure this is Nick the Perfect 10 who says, I want to wish Ken a very happy Blur's Day. Oh, this is probably Ken in Michigan, right? I hope you had a great day, and let's continue to root for our Tigers as we dominate all of the MLB. See you at the next live show. Happy Blur's Day to Annie. Oh, this is, I think, this is a different one. Nick is just wishing Ken a happy Blur's Day. I'd like to make that very clear. Then I have this that says, Happy Blur's Day to Annie from Megan. I hope you will start cataloging. I hope you will start whatting? I hope you will start cantaloping some of the cool TBTL merch you have collected over the years. Happy Burrs. Oh, I'm doing great. Hold on. I need to do that thing we're famous for.
Yeah.
Cool down period. Pause. Happy Blur's Day to Annie from Megan. I hope you will start cataloging some of the cool TBTL merch you have collected over the years. Cheers to you, Annie. Was that so hard?
Nice.
Why was that so hard for you, Luke? Seth says
those were some words that were strung together in a way that could throw a person. I really mean that. That's not sarcasm.
I was zipping along too quickly. I combined Nick's and Megan's notes. Everything really fell apart there. I'm leaving it all in. I want people to hear the process. I work for this. This is a $1.92's worth of work. Seth says, I want to wish my 11 or possibly 10 and a half wife, Tara, a happiest 40th Blur's Day. Tara is...
I think it's pronounced...
Tari.
Sorry. Tari, a happy...
Tari.
40th birthday. Tara is an amazing partner, friend, mother to our 2 5s, Ike and Leo, special ed teacher, and now head track coach. The boys and I wouldn't know what to do without you. I love you and appreciate you more every year. That's really sweet. Me too, Tara. Tara, happy Blur's Day.
Tari.
And finally, our pal Farron says, happy birthday to Lisa. Last year,
yeah.
I wished you would have a new puppy, and not only do you have a new puppy, but she has her own Instagram now. If you love a cute Aussie doodle, I think I was supposed to maybe say the name of the Instagram handle there, but I don't have it in front of me, so people have to find it themselves. I hope you and Ruby have another great year filled with adventures and love. Happy birthday to Lisa. And congrats on that doggo. I didn't know about that.
So the dog is named Ruby?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I think
Cute.
I edited that one incorrectly or
just go to the Stens page, find
You'll
Lisa, and find Ruby's Instagram page.
And make sure you say, go Seahawks to Lisa. She loves the Seahawks. It's her favorite sports team.
Absolutely. I was hanging out with a dog at the truck stop yesterday, and boy, a rescue named Zoe that this truck driver drives around with. I didn't even tell you about this whole thing. I get in the truck with this guy. They set up all these GoPro cameras. I'm asking him about his setup and stuff, and I asked him about traveling with the dog, and it's like the first question, like, hey, what's it like, having a dog live in here with you? And he just goes, well, I don't mean to get emotional. And then he starts crying, and he says, if not for this dog, I would not be alive today.
Oh, my goodness.
It was so intense and real.
Yeah.
And was just like, it's not going to be in the story because it's not really what the story is about, but it was like an extremely real moment between people. And I was like, I totally get it, dude.
Yeah.
I totally get it. But aside from that, this dog was so stinking cute and sweet, Zoe, that I was like, I'm not trying to yell at PR people so I get fired from my television job, but if it did happen...
You get a dog?
I do get to have a dog. So that would be
because you're home more, you mean.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
But alas, for now, I am apparently unfireable. So I will continue to travel these United States, including going to Boston tomorrow, Andrew. That'll be an adventure. I'm going to Boston to talk to an expert on mayonnaise.
Oh,
this is a real thing.
Tell him I don't like. Did you tell him I don't like mayonnaise? Will you work that in?
We started with that. That's how the piece
I have
starts.
I have a friend who doesn't like mayonnaise. You got to start broad and then narrow down your thesis.
Yep, then that's exactly. It's the inverted pyramid. It's
Yes,
It's the journalism writes itself, Andrew.
Some people like mayonnaise, some people don't. Okay.
But on the other hand, anyway, all right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for listening. We will be back here tomorrow with more Imaginary Radio. So if you could, please tune in for that. In the meantime, have a great Thursday. Tomorrow also we're going to have the TBTL, the Great TBTL Billboard Hunt clue number 4. Is that right?
Yeah.
We're on number 4.
I think people are starting
getting
to
closer.
home in. Yes.
So please join us for that. In the meantime, have a great Thursday. Take care of yourselves, and please remember, no mountain too tall.
And good luck to all.
The comedy factor speaks for itself. It's just painfully obvious.
Yeah.
It's an unfulfilled prophecy. It just has to be played out.
Power out.